Science and space. What exotic celestial phenomenon did Stephen Hawking bet against in a famous 15-year wager, only to officially concede defeat when it was proven to be one? Black hole. Which high-speed, 110-foot-long commercial airliner has been produced by Boeing since 1997, standing as slightly larger than a blue whale? Boeing 737. What distinct, pleasant, and earthy smell is scientifically known to be caused by rain falling on dry soil? Petrichor. What name is given to the seasonal allergic reaction, commonly known as pollinosis, that triggers sneezing fits during spring and autumn? Hay fever. Which specific group of elements on the periodic table is named for its chemical ability to form salts when combined with metals? Halogens. Geography and places. Which long Asian peninsula stretches roughly 700 miles south from Myanmar down towards the Indonesian island of Sumatra? Malay Peninsula. New Zealand's unique geography is shaped by the active collision of the Pacific tectonic plate and which major neighboring country's plate? Australia. Which mythic-sounding peninsula in Washington state features a famous post office originally built inside a massive cedar tree stump? Olympic Peninsula. What iconic 600-foot-long architectural landmark is easily spotted by taking a left on First Avenue and a right on Broad Street near Pike Place Market? Space Needle. Which South Korean name is alternatively used to describe the tide-free body of water globally known as the Sea of Japan? EC. Fine arts and styles. Which late 18th century, old-as-new artistic style was championed by sculptor Antonio Canova through works depicting Cupid and Perseus? Neoclassicism. What specific variety of fast-drying, acid-free adhesive is commonly marketed under the name Jade 403 for professional bookbinding? PVA glue. What traditional Japanese art form utilizes specific historical styles known as rika and moribana to create balanced flower arrangements? Ikebana. What specific heraldic term, utilizing a noun followed by adjective structure, is the correct historical way to refer to a red dragon? Dragon gules. What French term meaning pork butcher's shop describes a popular assorted spread of cold-cured meats, cheeses, and crackers served on a wooden board? Charcuterie. Cinema and Hollywood. Which 2018 biographical drama stars Mahershala Ali as a world-class classical musician touring the racially segregated American South in the 1960s? Green Book. Which 2025 science fiction film directed by Bong Joon-ho stars Robert Pattinson as a cloned protagonist navigating space travel? Mickey 17. Which 2020 Oscar-winning drama film was directly inspired by Jessica Bruder's non-fiction book documenting transient older Americans living in vans? Nomadland. Which highly successful post-Marines actor attended Juilliard before starring in the television series Girls and the biographical film House of Gucci? Adam Driver. Which time-bending, multi-era novel by David Mitchell was successfully adapted into a major 2012 feature film that he co-wrote? Cloud Atlas. Nature and wildlife. Which venomous spider species features a distinct red hourglass marking on its body and is known for females consuming the much smaller males? Black Widow. Which common marine bivalves include highly sought-after commercial varieties known as Blue Point, Kumamoto, and Olympia? Oysters. An international public health campaign supported by Jimmy Carter successfully reduced global cases of what painful, waterborne parasitic illness? Guinea worm disease. What specific semi-aquatic predatory mammal from the weasel family brings a definitive close to a classic world traveler's book title? Otter. Television and pop culture. Which hit Fox television drama, premiering in 2005, follows two brothers attempting to break out of a maximum security prison? Prison Break. What is the short first name of the titular comic strip housewife married to the clumsy, sandwich-loving Dagwood Bumstead? Blondie. Which popular rock musician and singer-songwriter is famous for recording the hit 1980s music tracks Flesh for Fantasy and Eyes Without a Face? Billy Idol. What single-letter name was given to the social media platform Twitter after billionaire Elon Musk acquired and rebranded it in 2023? X. Which popular American car care service chain features a signature beep-beep sound in its national marketing campaigns? Jiffy Lube. World history. Which historic island forming the heart of Paris was unsuccessfully besieged by Vikings from 885 to 886 before they were paid to leave? Isle de la Cite. Which American historical figure was positively identified during an 1865 autopsy partly by a distinctive JWB tattoo on his hand? John Wilkes Booth. What Russian political term meaning restructuring was implemented by Mikhail Gorbachev to completely overhaul the Soviet Union's stagnant economy? Perestroika. Which legendary Italian-American mobster became the most powerful organized crime boss of his era under the infamous nickname Lucky? Lucky Luciano. What specific historical term describes the easing of geopolitical tensions that occurred between the United States and the Soviet Union during the 1970s? Détente. Sports and athletics. Which specific sport did star pitcher Jenny Finch dominate, winning 60 consecutive games at the University of Arizona with a 72 miles per hour underhand pitch? Softball. The New York Yacht Club established an unmatched sporting dynasty by winning which prestigious international sailing trophy 24 consecutive times? America's Cup. What innovative three-point safety feature did Volvo engineer Nils Bohlin intentionally decline to patent so that other automakers could save lives? Seatbelt. Which traditional sport uses terms like shake hands and obey my instructions at all times during a referee's pre-match briefing? Boxing. Language and grammar. What adjective meaning just okay or sufficient completes the sentence, your Airbnb will be ____ to my needs? Adequate. What comical word was invented to describe an irrational, self-referential fear of palindromes? Ibophobia. What specific English phrase translates to the classic Latin phrase, amor vincit omnia? Love conquers all. What seven-letter word historically meant a formal dissertation but is now used to describe a long, angry verbal rant? Diatribe. What single word meaning an abundant feast becomes a cardinal direction on a compass when you remove its last letter? Feast. Political history and leadership. Which American politician lost his bid for the vice presidency to Calvin Coolidge in 1920 but remained a prominent political figure? Franklin D. Roosevelt. What command shouted to swimming pool swimmers is also used in the military to order soldiers to line up side by side in a formation? Fall in. Which prominent civil rights figure's 1992 police beating trial triggered massive civic unrest across Los Angeles following the officer's acquittal? Rodney King. Which American political figure announced his presidential run on October 3, 1991, by declaring a desire to build a community of hope? Bill Clinton. Literature and authors. Which Victorian author penned the extensive Palliser series of political novels, including the classic work, Can You Forgive Her? Anthony Trollope. Which specific religious funerary texts include Spell 77, written to help a deceased man named Ramos transform into a golden hawk? Book of the Dead. Which best-selling American horror author put her classic vampire chronicles on hold in 1990 to publish the novel, The Witching Hour? Anne Rice. Which iconic musical artist was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2021 by Angela Bassett, the actress who portrayed her on film? Tina Turner. Science and Astronomy. Published in 1543, the Copernican sun-centered solar system model eventually replaced the Earth-centered model named after which ancient astronomer? Ptolemy. What specific type of steep hillside railway utilizes two interconnected train cars that serve as physical counterweights for one another? Funicular. Culinary arts and culture. What popular British comfort food dish pairs savory grilled or baked pork sausages with a mound of fluffy mashed potatoes? Bangers and mash. Which iconic soul music group topped the charts in 1973 with the hit song Midnight Train to Georgia? Gladys Knight and the Pips. What specific variety of espresso coffee is marked or spotted with a tiny dollop of steamed milk froth? Cafe macchiato. Comic book lore. What tiny prefix pairs with the word battle to create a game based on the crime-fighting adventures of the Marvel duo Ant-Man and the Wasp? Nano. Which chart-topping pop singer-songwriter opened her hit debut single Royals with the lyrics, I've never seen a diamond in the flesh? Lord. Religion and beliefs. According to the religious history of the Latter-day Saint movement, which angel directed Joseph Smith to the sacred golden plates? Moroni. What specific variety of higher education institution does rapper Drake mention in his song, Wants and Needs, when he raps about going to a Jewish university? Yeshiva. Sir Henry the Scarlet Knight serves as the official athletic mascot for which prominent state university of New Jersey? Rutgers University. Human anatomy. Exactly how many individual metacarpal bones are located in a human hand between the wrist joint and the base of the fingers? 5. Commercial history. Which massive American national bookstore chain operated Walden Books as a major subsidiary before liquidating all assets in 2011? Borders. The Phil and Penny Knight campus for accelerating scientific impact is located at which major Big Ten university? University of Oregon. White-collar crime. What fraudulent financial investment scheme bears the name of the Italian immigrant who famously operated one in the United States in 1920? Ponzi scheme. What alternative history novel by Philip K. Dick depicts a dystopian world where the Axis powers successfully won World War II and divided America? The Man in the High Castle. Traditional songs. According to the traditional holiday song, The 12 Days of Christmas, what specific avian gift is delivered on the second day? 2 turtle doves. Which Italian explorer successfully mapped the North American Atlantic coast in 1524, including New York Bay, before meeting a tragic end in the West Indies? Giovanni da Verrazzano. General knowledge. What specific term describes an individual who travels the world inside a traveling boxcar or semi-aquatic cargo vessel? Hobo. Which French monarch and successor to the Sun King was famous for his personal love of hot chocolate, occasionally preparing it himself? Louis XV. What two-word Latin phrase was traditionally illustrated on unexplored regions of ancient maps to warn sailors of uncharted sea monsters? Hic sunt dracons. Which prominent U.S. Secretary of State pledged her extensive collection of more than 200 diplomatic lapel pins to the National Museum of American Diplomacy? Madeleine Albright. What internet domain suffix completes the web address metafilter.com, a site designed for crowdsourcing collective human knowledge? .com. Which iconic American documentary photographer had her first major artistic retrospective exhibition organized in 1972, the year following her death? Diane Arbus. What specific legal phrase translates from Latin to mean, I did the act, but it is not an official admission of guilt? Nullo contendere. What French word meaning moonlight describes the beautiful, shimmering light source that illuminates the water in classical music imagery? Moonlight. American history and politics. What historic nickname was used by the 20th century American First Lady whose actual legal first name was Claudia? Lady Bird. Which military lieutenant colonel had a brief 2-minute meeting with Ronald Reagan on November 25, 1986, the exact day he was fired over the Iran-Contra affair? Oliver North. Which iconic British Prime Minister led her party to a landslide victory in 1983, winning a 144-seat majority to retain her Downing Street address? Margaret Thatcher. Cinema, television, and pop culture. Which American actor portrays the younger version of Bruce Willis's character in the 2012 time travel film, Looper? Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Dante and Randall serve as the two main title characters in which low-budget 1994 cult comedy film directed by Kevin Smith? Clerks. Which animated film featuring dancing penguins won the Academy Award for Best Animated Feature after debuting in theaters in 2006? Happy Feet. Architecture and fine arts. The grand cathedrals of Chartres, Amiens, and Reims stand as the three definitive masterpieces of which French architectural style? Gothic. Which Swiss-born surrealist sculptor is world-renowned for his towering, wire-thin, and jagged bronze human figures? Alberto Giacometti. Music and opera. What is the name of the iconic Memphis hotel room where the classic soul track, Knock on Wood, was written by Eddie Floyd and Steve Cropper? Lorraine Motel. Legendary operatic tenor Luciano Pavarotti rose to global fame singing the role of Rodolfo the poet in which Puccini opera? La Boheme. Which critically acclaimed country pop studio record won Beyoncé her very first Grammy Award for Album of the Year at the 2025 ceremony? Cowboy Carter. Sports and maritime history. Which world-famous yacht won an iconic 1851 sporting triumph before eventually ending up as a rotting hulk scrapped in 1945? America. Literature and theater. Which magical spirit does Prospero free from a tree split to use as a servant to summon a shipwrecking tempest? Ariel. Which irreverent, truth-telling character tells King Lear that he lacked wit when he gave his golden crown away? The Fool. Science and human anatomy. What is the scientific anatomical name for the human thigh bone, which stands as the largest and strongest bone in the body? Femur. What cell-free, clotting factor-free liquid substance is left behind after blood is allowed to clot completely? Serum. Business, brands, and industry. Which popular outdoor recreation brand manufactures youth transportation products like ripsticks, hoverboards, and kick scooters? Razer. Which prominent twin brothers successfully sued Mark Zuckerberg for $65 million over the early programming origins of Facebook? Winklevoss twins. Which historic discount department store chain saw its final full-size location in the mainland United States officially close down in October 2024? Kmart. Which fast food restaurant chain is widely celebrated for its seasoned curly fries and its double Jack Burger menu item? Jack in the Box. Technology and computing. What specific type of early computer virus, reportedly named after a stripper, began rapidly spreading in 1999 via hijacked AOL accounts? Macrovirus. Mathematics and science. What geometric term describes any two angles whose mathematical measurements add up to exactly 90 degrees? Complementary. What is the very first two-digit prime number, which also functions as a winning natural opening roll in a game of craps? 11. Global geography and logistics. Which highly strategic artificial waterway opened to maritime traffic in 1869, reducing the shipping distance between the United Kingdom and India by half? Suez Canal. Nature and wildlife. What specific variety of migratory insects travel to a protected biosphere reserve in Michoacán, Mexico, turning the forests orange and black each November? Monarch butterflies.